Across the American West, nature has shaped landscapes unlike anywhere else on Earth. From red rock canyons to snow-covered mountains, every place is connected by the same force, time. In the southwest corner of the United States, the land rises into red and orange cliffs hundreds of feet high. Sandstone, cut and shaped by water over a very long time, now stands almost vertical above a narrow strip of green. Our journey begins in Teton National Park. From above, little about this country looks hospitable. Rock dominates the view in every direction, baked by sun for most of the year. But cut through the middle of it runs the Virgin River, thin and quiet in most places, carrying enough water to keep a ribbon of life alive through the driest months. Cottonwoods lean out over the banks, their roots reaching for whatever moisture stays close to the surface. Shadows pool beneath the cliffs, even at midday. And it's here, in the cooler air near the rock, that most of the canyon's animals choose to wait out the heat. Follow the river far enough, and the canyon begins to open. Wider valleys appear. Different rock, different plants, different animals. The first signs of a much larger country stretching out beyond Teton's walls. But how do animals survive in a place like Teton? The river doesn't answer that question on its way out. And somewhere above the river, on ledges too narrow for most things to stand on, a group of desert bighorn sheep is already awake. They move early, before the heat has time to settle into the rock. One leads, choosing a line along the cliff face that looks, from below, like no line at all. The others follow in loose order, spacing themselves across the slope. Their hooves are built for exactly this, soft in the center and hard around the edges. They conform to the uneven rock, giving each step remarkable stability. Where the ledge narrows to almost nothing, they barely slow down. It doesn't take them long to find what they came for. A patch of green has taken hold in a crack near the edge, low shrubs clinging to whatever soil the wind has left behind. One sheep lowers its head first, pulling at the leaves, and the others drift over one at a time until the group is gathered around the same small patch of growth. When the shrub is picked over, they don't go far. One by one, they fold their legs beneath them and settle onto the warm stone, backs to the sun. The canyon stretching out silent below the ledge where they've chosen to wait out the rest of the morning. But they were already being watched by a mountain lion. One alert sheep spotted the danger just in time, and the mountain lion's ambush failed. The sheep climb back toward the narrow ledges. Onto ground the mountain lion won't follow. Soon they disappear among the rocks. For a predator that depends on surprise, even a few seconds are enough to lose the advantage. The canyon slowly becomes quiet again. Dust settles onto the stone, and the shrubs return to moving gently in the wind. Farther north, the ground changes, and so does the way animals live on it. A moose steps from a wall of willows and into shallow water. There is nothing hurried in the way it moves. Each long leg passes carefully through the marsh, placing a broad hoof beneath the surface before the rest of the body follows. For an animal of this size, the wet ground isn't an obstacle. It's one of the places where it's most at home. Moose are the largest members of the deer family, but unlike deer and elk, they're usually found alone. Much of their time is spent moving quietly between willow thickets, forest edges, lakes, and slow-moving rivers. Here, young leaves and soft stems grow close to the water, while aquatic plants offer another source of food below the surface. The moose lowers its head and begins feeding, pulling leaves from the branches before moving slowly along the bank. Its broad muzzle strips vegetation from the surrounding shrubs, while its height puts much of the growth within easy reach. This body, awkward-looking on open ground, was built for exactly this kind of place. Long legs carry the moose through deep winter snow and let it wade far into rivers and lakes through the warmer months. Even deeper water presents little difficulty. Moose are capable swimmers, and they regularly enter the water in search of food. This one continues into the shallows until the water rises around its legs. It reaches beneath the surface, feeding on plants hidden below, then lifts its head as water runs from its muzzle. Between mouthfuls, it stops to listen. Wolves and bears share these valleys, and dense vegetation can hide movement until it's close. For now, there's no sign of danger. The river stays still, disturbed only by the animal moving through it. Behind the moose, morning light begins to reach the mountains, revealing the larger landscape that has formed around the water. This is Grand Teton National Park. The Teton Range rises sharply above the floor of Jackson Hole, with little between the open valley and the mountains themselves. Glaciers once moved through these peaks, widening canyons, sharpening ridges, and leaving depressions that later filled with water. Today, a chain of lakes rests beneath the range, often reflecting the mountains when the wind falls still. Below them, the Snake River bends across the valley. Water connects almost every part of this landscape. Snowmelt descends from the mountains through streams and rivers, feeding wetlands, marshes, and willow flats. Along their edges, plants grow thick enough to support moose and many of the other animals living here. Ospreys search the river for fish. Elk and bison move across the open valley, while bears travel between the forests and the meadows. In the higher country, marmots stay close to the rocks, and golden eagles circle above the slopes. Each of these animals shares the same landscape, but each uses a different part of it. The park is known for its mountains, but much of its life gathers below them. Wetlands provide food and shelter through the warmer months. Forests hold shade and moisture, while open stretches of sagebrush give large herds room to move and feed. As the seasons change, so does the balance between them. Summer opens the higher slopes and fills the valleys with vegetation. Winter buries much of the ground in snow, pushing animals toward lower elevations and whatever food is still within reach. The moose is part of that seasonal rhythm. Through the warmer months, it can stay close to the water, feeding on leaves and aquatic plants. As winter arrives, willow stems and other woody growth become the main source of food, and its long legs keep it moving through snow that would stop many other animals. But Grand Teton isn't an isolated world. The boundaries drawn around it mean nothing to the animals moving through it. To the north, these rivers, forests, and mountains join a much larger network of connected habitats. Grand Teton lies within the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem, one of the largest intact temperate ecosystems left on Earth. Animals travel through this wider landscape with the seasons, following food, shelter, and the return of warmer ground. Beyond the northern edge of the Tetons, the mountains gradually give way to a high plateau. The forests continue, and many of the same animals move beneath them, but the land itself begins to change. Before sunrise, Yellowstone is quiet in a way that feels almost deliberate. Steam drifts across the valleys, catching the first gray light. Beneath the frost, rivers continue their slow work, cutting deeper into a landscape that has never truly stood still. Pine forests rise dark against the mountains, and in the silence, before the first calls carry across the valley, there is a strange feeling that the ground itself is breathing. That feeling is not entirely wrong. Yellowstone lies above one of the largest volcanic systems on Earth. Its heat still reaches the surface, appearing in places where the landscape seems to open onto something hidden below. Hot springs shine in colors that hardly seem natural. Geysers rise without warning, driven by pressure building far beneath the ground. Nearby, pools of mud bubble quietly as steam escapes through the earth. From a distance, a place like this can seem permanent. Mountains, rivers, and forests appear fixed in place, almost untouched by time. Yellowstone is different. The ground rises and falls so slowly that only careful measurements reveal the change. Rivers gradually reshape their banks. Fire clears parts of the forest, and new growth follows. What appears still is simply moving too slowly for us to see. These forces do more than shape the view. They influence what can live here. Around some thermal areas, warm ground leaves patches of grass exposed even during winter. Rivers open broad paths through the valleys, while forests provide shelter from the weather. As the seasons change, each part of the landscape offers something different. Together, they have created a place with enough variety to support an extraordinary amount of life. Nothing here was planned. The valleys were carved over time. Forests spread, burned, and returned. Water followed the easiest path downhill, while heat continued rising from far below. Gradually, the landscape became what it is today, a place shaped by movement, even when it seems completely still. A place where fire and winter can change everything. Yet life continues to return, and wherever the land provides enough room, shelter, and food, life finds its way in. Across Yellowstone, it has found countless ways to remain. As the light spreads across the valley floor, the first shapes begin to emerge from the mist. Dark, heavy shoulders, breath rising like steam from the geysers behind them. Before the sun has fully cleared the ridgeline, they're already moving, slow, unhurried, spread across the grassland in numbers that seem to belong to another era. The American bison. There is nothing quite like them anywhere else on this continent. Adult bulls can weigh close to a ton, yet they move with a strange, quiet grace, especially at this hour when the grass is still wet and the world hasn't fully woken up. They live in herds, sometimes small family groups, sometimes gatherings of hundreds, drifting together across the open range like something the landscape itself decided to arrange. Cows and calves stay close. Bulls often keep their distance, only joining the larger herds when the season calls for it. And the seasons here call for a great deal. Winter in Yellowstone is not gentle. Snow can bury the grass beneath feet of white, and temperatures drop far below anything most animals could survive comfortably. There is no urgency in the way they face winter. They move only when they need to, rest whenever they can, and ask no more from the landscape than it is willing to provide. Somehow, that has always been enough. Their coats help too, thick, shaggy, built for exactly this kind of cold. By the time spring arrives, that heavy winter fur begins to shed in uneven patches, and for a few strange weeks, the bison look almost ragged, caught between one season and the next. Spring also brings the calves, reddish-orange, small against their mothers, unsteady on legs that seem too long for their bodies. Within hours, most can stand. Within days, they can keep pace with the herd. It has to be that way. Watch them long enough, and a pattern starts to emerge. These animals aren't simply living on this land. They're shaping it. Where bison graze, grass grows back differently, thicker in places, more varied in others. Their hooves break up soil that would otherwise stay hard and undisturbed. Even their wallowing, rolling in the dirt to shed insects and old fur, leaves shallow depressions that fill with rain and become their own small pockets of life. The grassland and the bison have been shaping each other for a very long time. It wasn't always guaranteed that this would continue. By the late 1800s, bison had been hunted to the edge of extinction, their numbers falling from tens of millions to only a few hundred. Yellowstone became one of the last places they survived at all. What exists here now, herds moving freely across open valleys, calves born every spring, grasslands shaped by their grazing, is not something that was inevitable. It came back from almost nothing. Today, The sound of a herd moving through the valley is one of the oldest sounds this land has to offer, hooves against packed earth. It's an easy sound to miss if you're not listening for it. As the bison move on, the valley begins to open around them again. The dust settles behind the herd, the grass slowly rises, and above the plain, a dark shape turns once in the wind. A bald eagle circles high over Yellowstone, riding the warm air without a single wasted movement. From the ground, it can seem almost still, held in place by the sky. But its eyes are working constantly, scanning the river, the shoreline, and the open country below. Its broad wings can stretch more than 2 meters from tip to tip, giving it the lift to travel across wide sections of the park while using surprisingly little energy. Even a distant river bend can be reached without a single wing beat. Here, the rivers provide much of what they need. Fish are an important part of their diet, and an eagle may wait for long stretches from a branch above the water before dropping suddenly toward the surface. The strike lasts only a moment. Powerful feet reach forward, the talons close, and the bird rises again with the current pulling beneath its wings. But bald eagles are not limited to hunting. They are careful opportunists willing to take advantage of whatever the landscape offers. A fish left near the bank, the remains of an animal after wolves have moved on, or food disturbed by another predator may all become part of the day. In winter, when cold tightens its hold on the park, this flexibility becomes especially important. Pairs often return to the same nesting areas year after year. Their nests are built high in strong trees, close enough to water for easy access to food. Each season, more branches may be added, and over time, the structure can become enormous. From there, the adults watch the river and the forest below, while the young remain sheltered above the ground. For all their strength, much of an eagle's life is spent waiting. Waiting for the wind to rise, waiting for movement beneath the water, waiting for the right moment to leave the branch. The bird passes over the river and disappears beyond the trees. Below, the water continues to move through the valley, carrying scent along the bank and drawing another animal out from the forest. By the water's edge, something moves. Broad shoulders, a slow, rolling walk that never seems in any particular rush. The grizzly bear steps out from the tree line, muzzle low, testing the air before it commits to anything else. Bears trust their nose more than almost anything. A grizzly can pick up a scent from over a mile away, sometimes farther, carried on the wind down from the mountains or along the river. It is how they find much of what they need: roots, berries, insects beneath a fallen log, or a freshly caught fish from the river. This one is in no hurry to decide. It simply stands, reading the air, letting the landscape tell it what is worth investigating. Where the eagle watches from above, the grizzly searches from the ground. It moves alone, with no herd beside it and no pack following behind. Just one bear traveling through a landscape it seems to know intimately. Every ridge, every stretch of river, every patch of forest where the food changes with the season. And the season is changing now. Summer is generous here, but it does not last. Somewhere ahead lies a winter this bear will spend almost entirely asleep, and every meal from now until then matters. There is no panic in the search, though, only steady, deliberate effort, day after day, building towards something the bear cannot rush and will not ignore. It moves with a kind of calm confidence, unbothered by much of anything, not aggressive, not hesitant, simply sure of its place here. The way something can only be when it has spent its whole life learning a single stretch of land. Even here, life is rarely lived alone. Tiny parasites find their way through the bear's thick fur, feeding unnoticed for days at a time. But they don't always remain hidden. A black-billed magpie often follows bears for exactly this reason, searching patiently through the fur for an easy meal. One by one, it pulls the ticks free before swallowing them. The bear gains a little relief, the bird gains a meal, and for both of them, it's simply another ordinary part of life in Yellowstone. With the last of the ticks removed, the bear is left to rest. Before long, it will rise and continue through the valley, following scents and paths known only to itself. Soon, winter will close around these mountains, and the grizzly will disappear into the quiet until spring returns. Across the wild, nothing truly stands alone. A river carries the memory of snow. A forest gathers rain and turns it into shelter. And every track in the earth belongs to a journey larger than the animal that made it. The seasons will continue to change. Valleys will bloom, storms will return, and winter will once again quiet the land. Through it all, life will adapt, move, and endure. Nature does not hurry, and it does not waste. It reshapes, renews, and begins again, often beyond our sight. For a brief moment, we are allowed to witness this ancient rhythm. And perhaps that is enough to remind us that the wild is not an empty place waiting to be used, but a living world with its own time, its own order, and its own voice. As the light fades, that voice remains.